So, without wasting the time, I am going to read this essay. But at first, I will read about the author and about the lesson. A Girl with a Basket by William C. Douglas. Chapter 1, about the author. William C. Douglas, a judge of the Supreme Court of United States of America, visited India in 1950. During his visit, he happened to travel from New Delhi to Ranikhet, a hill station in the Himalayas. He was a realist and supporter of labor. He was loved self-respect and self. He also loved self-respect and self-confidence. He was fascinated and charmed with the natural beauty of India. A Girl with a Basket is one of his famous essays. About the lesson. A Girl with a Basket has been written by William C. Douglas, who came to India after the partition of the country in 1950. At the time, India was full of refugees who were driven away by the communal fanaticism of Pakistan. He had a unique experience at one of the railway stations. Many refugee children were selling small articles like baskets and fans. He was impressed with a little girl of 9 years. This essay is the recollection of his valuable experiences. I had left New Delhi for the Himalayas. I was going as far as Bareilly by train and then by car to Ranikhet, an old British Army hill station located on a 6,000-foot ridge opposite a 120-mile stretch of snow-capped Himalayas. The train was slow and it stopped at all the way stations. At every stop, I swung open the door of my compartment and walked to the platform. The platforms were packed with people: Sikhs, Muslims, Hindus, soldiers, merchants, priests, porters, beggars, hawkers. Almost everyone was barefoot and dressed in loose white garments. I would ask at least three people before I could find one who spoke English. We would talk world affairs and every major topic the news of the day produced. In this way, I was trying to get a feel of the pulse of the nation, checking opinion against official attitudes and reports. The route led through one of the richest of India's agricultural areas. This was the plain of the upper Ganges river, 1,000 feet above sea level but tropical. The Ganga was brown silt, swollen with floodwaters, its overflow inundating thousands of acres of rice. To the north were jungles, great expanses of grass, higher than a man's head, and unbroken except for an occasional clump of trees, the home of tigers, elephants, pythons, and cobras. Everywhere else there was flat land running to the horizon, but dotted here and there by the sacred banyan tree or by rows of paca trees, shaped like elms and having thick, twisted trunks. Hot, humid air was moving in from the southwest. Monkeys, some of them mothers with the babies clinging to them and riding underneath, sung of sung off trees at the stations looking for food. The villages we passed had walls made of mud mixed with water and cow dung. Their peaked roofs were thatched. Bundles of grass tied to bamboo poles stretched across the rafters. That day, the pumpkin vines that grew over them were in bloom, trailing streaks of yellow over drab walls. At one station, my routine of talking with the people was interrupted. As soon as I alighted, a group of young children gathered around me. They were selling baskets, hand woven reed baskets with simple designs and patterns. They held the baskets in high shouting words I did not know, but conveying unmistakably their desire. These were refugee children. When partition between India and Pakistan was declared, hundreds of thousands of people pulled up their roots and changed their residences. 9 million people left Pakistan and came to India, driven by the fear of religious fanaticism. They were poor people to start with. They were poor as they began their long trek, for all they could carry was a bit of food and a few belongings. Soon they were out of food. A few days after they started, they began to fall by the wayside from the weakness of hunger and died where they fell. The children selling baskets were sons and daughters of these refugees. They or their parents or relatives had gathered in the cities, setting up stalls, manufacturing simple articles, trying to make a living in markets already overcrowded. They lived in cloth and grass sheds that lined the streets. The peasants among these refugees had been accustomed to little all their lives, for the annual income of an agricultural family does not exceed on an average $100 a year. The average unskilled or laborers makes 30 cents a day or less than $2 a week. This is one meal a day, an onion, a piece of bread, a bowl of pulse with milk, perhaps a bit of goat cheese. No tea, no coffee, no fat, no sweets, no meat. $100 a year is not $2 a week. Yet, even that small amount is hard to earn by selling baskets to people too poor to buy them. That no doubt is the reason these little children descended on me like locusts. I, an American, was doubtless the most promising market they had seen. I bought one tiny basket for a few annas, another fruit basket for a bit more, a beautiful waste paper basket for a rupee, a lovely sewing basket for a rupee, a few fans for an anna or two apiece. My arms were filled and I had not spent 50 cents. The children passed in, shouting their wares. I was a prisoner, completely surrounded, unable to move. The most diligent, aggressive vendor was a beautiful girl of 9 right in front of me. She had a lovely basket with handle and she wanted a rupee and a half for it, or about 30 cents. She was an earnest pleader. There were tears in her eyes. She pleaded and begged in terms that would wring any heart. My arms were full. I had no room, let alone any need, for another basket. Balancing my baskets and fans on my left arm, I reached into my right coat pocket and got a handful of change, perhaps 15 cents in all, which I deposited in the basket that the young girl held imploringly before me. I tried to explain that I could not buy the basket, but extended the gratuity as a substitute. I realized at once what offense I had given. This child of 9, dressed in rags and on the edge of starvation, raised her chin, reached into the basket, and with all the pride and graciousness of a lady, handed the money back to me. There was only one thing I could do. I bought the basket. She wiped her eyes, smiled, and dashed down the platform, headed for some grass hut that would have at least 30 cents that night. I told this story to Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. I told him it was one reason I had fallen in love with India. The people I saw in India, those in the villages as well as those in high office, have both pride and a lively sense of decency and citizenship. They also have a passion for independence. This beautiful child, born in squalor and poverty, uneducated in both grammar and manners, had given me a glimpse of the warm soul of India. So now in the next part of the video, I will explain this chapter, by then enjoy reading and try to just grasp the words.